We, the Planning and Zoning Commission, call this meeting to order on July 5th, 2023. Thank you for being here to answer any questions, and of course, I'm sure everybody silenced their phones by now, but please do so if you have not done that. Dave, there's nobody here that's not on the agenda to speak at this time?
There's not. I'm not taking any comments from anyone prior to the meeting.
All right. So, item number 1 on the agenda, consideration and possible action on the regular meeting minutes of June 6th, 2023. And that was the one that we did have an audio situation on that, and I know Dave has done a good job of getting comments from anybody to, although you did have lots of information to go on from Gary's shorthand.
Right. I had a few, notes, but that was it.
Okay. All righty. So,
I'll make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of June 6, 2023.
I'll second.
we have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Item number 2 on the agenda. By the way, welcome to our meeting. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah.
Made it just in time.
Yeah. Did you have anything on the agenda that?
I don't know.
Okay, great. Good time. Yeah. Appreciate you taking your time out of your day to be here. It really helps. Consideration and possible action on Lone Star Estates, partial replat number 1.
So, Commissioners, you've got the information in front of you. The replat, again, deals with lots 10, 11, and 12. They're combining 10 and 11 and adjusting the lot line between 12 so that both properties will have access to the lake there or the pond there. And if you guys have any questions, you've got someone here to answer.
Yeah, I guess, so on 10 and 11, are we combining, is there one house on 2 lots? Well, I just wasn't sure from the diagram.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you look on the kind of that aerial there that we've got in the packet there on page 6, that
Yeah.
is, again, just kind of an MCAD, aerial, you can see there's just a light dash line that, right now the property
Almost divides the house.
Right. It's all owned by one person. There's an existing house right now that it's, like one lot, but my sense is that in order to adjust those lot lines and replat, that, combining those lots, or formally combining those lots, was one of the requirements to do that. Right. Fair?
Yes, sir.
And then how does that affect lot number 12? There was something about an adjustment on that. Just to be clear. The wording was adjust.
The lot line for lot number 12 is being shifted to the east slightly, so that both the combined lots 10 and 11 and lot 12 will have access to the pond.
Oh, okay, I get it. So
the existing line today looks like it's just a straight line. The proposed, looks like it follows the bottom of a swale or a drainage, feature. So it's a little difficult to see on the, and I'm on page 12, that shows the proposed plat, and you can kind of see how it, kind of follows this drainage feature, and then as it gets up to the north there, it takes almost a, 2 o'clock
Jog.
Jog over to the northeast to provide both with some lakefront.
So that red line, the one that's at 1 o'clock, does that shift over to actually to the water more, or that's the new line, the red line?
Which page are you
Well, maybe I'm on the wrong page.
That's
Six,
the
page 6?
existing.
That's the existing.
Right, yes,
Okay.
that's the existing. So on page 12, just a black and white drawing there, that's kind of the drawing page of the replat.
Okay.
On page 1 of the replat itself, it's again page 12 of your packet.
So that the property lines are kind of following the drainage ditch, and then it moves over to the right, so there's access to the pond, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Correct, and
I
then,
got you.
and it
Okay.
follows the pond
Yeah.
back around to the flat
Okay.
boundary.
Yeah. So, yeah, that drainage just becomes on their property. Okay, yeah.
It seems reasonable to me. Any easements being impacted by this?
So the utility lines that are in the subdivision now have been in place for, probably 20 some odd years. And so this won't affect anything that has to do with the existing utilities or, require the need for any other utilities going in there.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I want to point out, just to ease any concerns that may come up, you'll see a 10-foot sanitary sewer easement running underneath the existing house. As Dave mentioned, the utilities in this area have been in for 20 years. There is no sanitary sewer line going underneath the house.
Yep.
There will never be a sanitary sewer line going under the house. That easement was platted just as a function of the original plat and will not ever be used for a sanitary sewer line.
And with this plat, if it so pleases the commission, we can remove that by this plat. So it takes that off completely. Just that way it moves it.
Just get it off there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be a good idea, just to make it clear, alleviate any problems later.
Right.
I'm sure there's an HOA, and I'm sure all homeowners that are involved are well aware of this, but is there an HOA?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or is there, I just didn't know if there was an HOA fee that could be affected,
There probably is, but it's probably based per lot,
Mm-hmm,
maybe not per acreage.
right,
So,
right.
Is one of these lots yours?
no, sir.
Okay.
No, I'm Matt Tucker with TBS.
What's that?
Matt Tucker with TBS, the survey company.
Oh, okay, I got you, okay. So, Dave, am I reading this right? Does it go to two public hearings?
No, sir, we do not have to have a public hearing, but on certain replats and ones that are involved, anything that is platted for 1 or 2 family dwellings per lot, state law does require the council to hold a public hearing. So we do
Okay.
not have to have one, but so we either approve or deny at the P&Z level. Council holds a public hearing and then either approves or denies.
So is are the neighbors all in agreement of this, or,
I've not heard of any.
I mean, they all know about it?
Yes, to my knowledge. Everybody around has, we've not heard of any issues.
It's hard to make it on somebody else's property.
Right.
Well, the 2 owners that are involved obviously know.
Okay,
The lot 12 knows, and lots, 10 and 11 obviously, they know.
Okay, that's what you,
okay.
that's,
So the two that really affect is 12 and
10, 11.
10 and 11 and 12, okay,
yeah,
okay.
but 12 knows about it.
Yeah, they're both joined in on this.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's a positive for them. It's-
Okay.
Right, they both kind of get, what they want out of the deal.
Yeah.
The
Right.
12 gets the access to the lake without having to go across the other lot.
Right,
And the other guy, gets, the sale
Right.
of, the land, and then his lot, just becomes one, which, does kind of clean it up
Right.
then for the, just for the neighborhood itself, not to ever have.
so there's already been an agreement on exchange of monies and all that?
Right.
All right, okay.
So they have purchased the property, I believe, right, so they were, and I think,
I don't know if the actual transaction has occurred.
yeah, maybe the transaction hinges on, the approval of the replat.
Right.
Okay.
In terms of, we are going to mail out, letters to, to property owners within 200 feet. Oddly enough, in state law, when something like this comes before you, a commission, what state law says is that within 15 days after city council acts, that you provide a notification to the, to the homeowners that are within 200 feet.
Okay.
It wouldn't make sense to notify anybody after the fact, so we're gonna mail those letters out, in advance, so they've got time to attend the public hearing for council if they wish. Again, there's no real impacts at all, on any of the other lots, even the lots that are adjacent to these, so
Right, okay.
Yeah, nothing
I don't
changed.
expect anyone to oppose.
Right.
All right.
Long before the rules of replanting like this would have just been a handshake between two owners and move the fence over and be done with it.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay, all right. I guess if everybody's in agreement, I'll make a motion to approve the Lone Star Estates partial replat number 1 as presented.
Can we add the contingent of moving that sanitary sewer?
What?
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's nothing existing in that, and serves no purpose right now. And in the state of Texas, how easement is dedicated is how it's removed. So we couldn't come back later and file a separate document to remove this. So now would be the time to remove it.
Yeah.
If it's needed later on, we come back, create a mixed bounds and exhibit and rededicate it.
And, just, so you guys know, there have been a couple of easements that the city has abandoned that are in this subdivision, for a situation exactly like this. The sewer line was not in the easement, and it was never, going to be used, so the sewer line got installed outside of the easement. Again, this is, 20 some odd years ago, not on this side of the pond and on the far side of the subdivision. It was, same situation. Well, we're never going to use this easement. Let's abandon it and let's get an easement.
Yep.
And it was actually the property owner for, one of these two owners is the one that we are working with on the other easement as well. So it's really just a matter of, cleaning up the easements to reflect where the utilities are. And again, just given the layout of things, there's never a chance that we would need an easement. Where it's shown on lot 10 and 11.
Yeah. So it's a win-win for everybody involved.
Agreed.
All right.
I'll second.
So we have a second with that motion, we have a contingency. You got that? And we have a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming. Yeah. Okay, item number 3, consideration and possible action on a recommendation to City Council act related to parking variance request for Home Depot USA.
Commissioners, you see the summary there that's put in front of you. The Home Depot is, looking at the site. I think you're all familiar with where the site is, just to the west of the Kroger Center, behind where the Blue Wave and the Popeyes and the Dutch Brothers is on the frontage. So we have Mr. Jordan Corbett. He is with Kimley Horn. He's representing the client and the landowner now, which is Milestone, the developer of the Kroger Center. And so if you have any questions on the variance or anything you want to talk about, you can ask us, you can ask Jordan.
Okay.
So, over to you.
Yeah, I got some questions. The reducing the parking spots, like 206 spaces. I know you're all talking about customers and everything else, but typically a Home Depot, how many employees does a Home Depot and vendors have in that parking lot per day?
So there's about 40 something odd full-time employees,
Mhm.
and then about another, I think, 40 to 60 part-time.
Mhm.
But those part-time are all the same time.
Right.
So it's not 100 total.
Right.
It's probably 70 or so, I guess.
All right, so you're actually going to almost reducing that to 400 spaces a day for customers, correct?
So Our-
I mean, your count employees and part-time employees aren't in this 422, correct?
That does include it. So when Home Depot is looking at their parking in total to get to the number they want to get to,
Okay.
they incorporate their employees as well into that number, not just for customers.
Okay. One other question. I travel Houston and outside Houston and, through Home Depots and stuff. You have dedicated seasonal over on the east side of the building, correct?
Yes.
Is that the only place that's going to be, or is it going to be out in the parking lot?
Yeah, so where they're planning on putting it here, this is actually where they would ideally want to put it on every store if they had the width of the property. And so there will not be a seasonal corral where you would have Christmas trees and.
In the parking area?
In the parking area, right.
Okay.
So that's where it's intended to go.
Okay, same thing for the U-Haul trucks. You've only have 2 spots for 30-foot trucks and a couple rental trailers.
Yeah, so a majority of their, rental trucks, their sheds, their other items are typically around the perimeter of the parking lot.
Mhm.
And so you can see on the western side of the building, there's a couple of spaces called out for their
Rental equipment.
rental equipment, and then you've got your, kind of box trucks, 30-foot trucks.
Now, the only thing is, I've been in Home Depots and there are box trucks spewed throughout the parking lot.
Right.
So, I mean, you're talking one of these 30-foot trucks, you're talking 2 spots, sometimes where they park at 4.
Right.
Is there going to be any rhyme or reason? Is there any way for us to control that?
In terms of a vehicle being parked in there?
The rental,
Right. In terms of the rental trucks and stuff, I don't know the answer.
I mean, we're giving up spots.
That I can take
but-
for seasonal items and things, would often, or should fall, then under, a code enforcement, action of, this stuff is dedicated for parking, or this space is dedicated for parking, and you're putting stuff in it. So you're, using up some of the parking that is required.
So from a Home Depot's perspective, every store has an operation restriction site plan, ORSP.
Mhm.
It gets created like as we get through the civil permitting and timelines process.
Right.
And before the store opens, they have that. They're supposed to laminate it, put it in their store. Store manager should know where they're able to store items around their parking lot and everything else.
Right.
Now, does every store manager and every employee follow that to the T? No, but they do have that document where they're supposed to be following it. And then that allows code enforcement if it's not per, the approved plan to go and enforce it. And so what they have done and what they're starting to do now is every space that is going to be allocated has like the reserved, parking text. So,
Yeah, I just, the idea of giving up that many spots and then all at once you've got rental equipment, U-Haul trailers and trucks and everything else taken away from the customer. I mean, I know you in your letter you talk about the wanting to keep the customer base happy. I mean, not being able to park in Home Depot probably makes some people just as mad not be able to have to park along the service road or somewhere else to get in. Because I mean, you get contractors, and I'm a contractor also, I work a contractor. I mean, if I pull a trailer in there, I'm going to basically have to take up either perpendicular, take up 4 or 5 spots with a trailer if I pull that.
So what hopefully you can see on the site plan, one thing that they're starting to do now that is a brand new thing that they're starting to roll out is they're angling all pro contractor spaces.
Mhm.
So there's an entire road dedicated to pro customers now, not just 8 parking spaces.
Right.
They're the same as every other parking stall. They're angling them so that, and there's a little 3-foot dash where it's technically 2 spaces, so you could have 2 head-in parking spaces, or
Right.
with a trailer you could pull straight through and use up both of them.
Right.
And from a Home Depot's parking count perspective, it's all based off what their anticipated revenue is for their store. And so based off this store's revenue, they only anticipate they need 350 spaces and to adequately park and have, all the customers that they would need on the parking lot, and they're providing $399 with this site plan. And so they feel comfortable themselves, they're not gonna have a shortage for, any customer.
So they're basing this also on past, obviously on past experience, and I guess my question would be, how does this compare with some of the other Home Depots? Some are larger than others. My first reaction was, we've got a city ordinance, but this being a kind of a retail establishment with a big lots of square footage, and so we realize it's based on square footage where it's a little different animal compared to.
It's different than a Kroger.
Yeah. Yeah, and it does look like it's, if you compare Kroger, the part that Kroger's using just for grocery. I guess my only, you understand where we just want to be sure there's plenty of parking. But I would think that you've done the homework on compared to other Home Depots and the amount of business you expect to generate.
To be honest, a lot of the other Home Depots you go to are gonna have more parking, but that doesn't mean Home Depot wants to have all that parking.
Mhm.
And so what they're trying to do where they can is actually go back to the city and try to parcel off and do outlots for, small little retail strips
Mhm.
out there in the parking lot so that they don't have to maintain the parking out there any longer because it is a cost for them, on a
Yeah.
yearly basis to go out and continue to
Okay.
maintain.
More
That was
efficient.
my next question. What's the chance of outbuildings being built in this parking lot? Because everywhere you go in the Home Depots, there's outbuildings. What's the chances of that?
Well, for number one, they'd have to come back and probably request another variance if they wanted to reduce it further to allow the sale of that parcel, but there'd be the entire replating and all that. These are the processes the city would have.
In this case, it's kind of already done, for them, if you will, by Milestone, the owner of the property now, the developer of the Kroger Center, in that those parcels are already carved out on 105.
Right, so they can't expand.
But as far as additional parking or parcels, it would be highly unlikely at this store. Because again, they're aiming for the 350 to
Right.
500 parking spaces,
Okay.
and that's what they're getting here.
Mhm.
Some of the other, Dallas or where, I'm sure other Houston Home Depots where they have 600 parking spaces, then yes, they're likely trying to figure out how can they parcel an acre out of that.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Just for frame of reference, do you know how many parking spaces are at the Home Depot in Conroe off 105?
I don't, but I can provide that information.
Because that parking lot to me is always super crowded and it is a nightmare. I mean, and that would be my fear for this location. So I just was trying to look for a frame of reference for what it would feel like.
Well, and the purpose of this store is to relieve Conroe to a degree.
Okay.
I know it is a lot, drive kind of a ways away, but
Yeah.
what they're currently doing, 95% of all the new Home Depots currently being built are to relieve existing Home Depots, which mainly are in Texas and Florida, where everybody's moving to Texas and Florida. And those stores are starting to increase in revenue to where they can't support the customers anymore.
And when you guys are factoring revenue, so you guys are looking at the break-even point, how many customers do we need at a certain hour or throughout the day that we need a service? I mean, you guys are predicting we need X number of parking spaces, but no more? I mean, you're looking for that threshold number, and then any extra spaces you're not interested in providing, is that?
Not necessarily. I mean, a part of this is the site area itself. We're parking out as many as we can within the site area that we have.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's maxed out. So, I mean, it looks like it's almost like this is what we can do or we can't do the project.
There is a degree that if we can't get the parking variance, then there's nowhere else for us to really put parking
Yeah.
on the site. Except for maybe in the rear or something, which is back behind the store, which they wouldn't typically want to put parking back behind the store, just from a safety perspective, the forklifts and everything else drive around. There's also 30 feet of grade change from this corner of the site to this corner of the site. And so where they have to put the building down in this area, they're 15 feet, underneath the elevation here, and then they're, pretty high. So that's why you see the parking looking a little bit different in the southeast corner. So they're trying to be as efficient as we can and lay out as much parking as possible, but the site constraints are holding back a little bit. But to answer your question, they are technically over parking from what they say that they need, right? They only need 350,
Okay.
but they're providing 399.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's like a max, I guess, does that match with capacity at the store in any way?
That's what they're projecting. So based off their revenue, they have their own parking model that they'll do, and it calculates like the 9% peak timeframe. How
Okay.
many people they need. So,
Okay.
yeah, the 8%, that's what the 350 is, and then, we're 399, so we're above and beyond
Okay.
the 9% peak.
I just got to mention, that's a good question about Conroe. One thing we could keep in mind that helps is that this setup is, the parking lot is dedicated to Home Depot. I don't see anybody else using it. Where in Conroe, there's a lot of other retail that does share that parking lot, at least to
On
the
the further side,
one side.
towards 105.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm just mentioning that only
Yep.
because it does seem like this is dedicated to Home Depot customers.
One thing to mention is, so our ordinance is based on the square footage of parking, not necessarily parking spaces. We do require a minimum of a 9 by 18 space. What they're proposing is a 9 by 19 space. Typically, you will see a drive aisle being 24 feet wide. These are 25 foot wide. So they're, they understand, again, kind of back to, them understanding their customer, and, what they're going to be driving and how they're going to, interact. If they went with strictly the minimum size parking space, this number would have been reduced, or, they would have had more parking spaces than what they're proposing now, but they're electing to build just a little larger space and a little larger aisle than what would be required in a normal, a normal development. So.
And one thing we didn't, now that you mentioned that, Dave, one thing I haven't taken a look at, which I'd like to know your thoughts, but, like you said, it's based off the square footage of parking, not necessarily the number of spaces. You basically divide the number of the square footage of the parking area required by however much one parking space generates, and that's how we get the number. But we didn't account for, basically all the drive aisles and everything backing around.
Right.
So if I did actually just look at just the square footage number, we're probably much closer to the requirement than just number of spaces.
Right.
Let me just ask, could I just touch on, we always ask about landscaping, and, we realize this is a Home Depot, we're not expecting a lot of you can't waste too much space on landscaping. But those little ovals at the end of each strip, are those little planters?
At the end of each drive aisle?
At the end of each row of spaces, in other words,
Those are landscape.
Landscape aisles.
Yeah, and if you recognize, or if you recall, the parking lot over in Conroe, they put the little kind of a diamond, space, with a curve there. And you see on the landscape plan there, you see where they're able to incorporate a tree, that's in the parking lot without actually having to give up, any parking space to be able to do that. They do it differently on the end of the aisles, because the end of the aisle, you don't want someone
Parking here.
right. You definitely you want
A little bit of separation between
Right.
the cars and the parking customers and the
Right.
drive aisle. I think the balance.
so those little ovals are space. I mean,
the ones with the little hatch marks in them on the landscape plan. Is that what you're looking at?
oh, okay, I didn't see that. Yeah, well, I guess I was talking, it's more of a curb at the, if you look north and up and down, at the very end of each row. Is what I'm
Are you on
talking
page 20 of your packet there? The planting plan is sheet L1.
Keep going. Keep going. It's going to look like this.
about. Oh, yeah,
They've got
okay.
trees in it.
I'm sorry,
Pretty much
yeah.
all of them. And then
I
along the
forgot about
aisle,
that,
too.
thank you. Yeah, I got it, okay.
So just based off of, this is, just kind of, I guess, a high level, look at the landscape plan in terms of the tree canopy coverage and how this meets, the tree ordinance. If this were the bare minimum, there could be a whole lot fewer trees on the side than what's, shown
Yeah, looks
here.
like-
I think we require that no parking spaces further than, I think, 325 feet from a tree. And you can see here that, there's almost a canopy over most of the, most of the parking spaces, so.
Right. Okay.
So there's a tiny difference, or there's a little difference between the site plan and then like the aerial overlay. Do you know which one we're to consider?
Sorry, you mean the landscape plan and the site plan, or?
Yeah, okay, site plan 5 and, yeah, the planting plan. There's,
Yeah, I'm sure the planting plan doesn't have,
Like the pro parking?
pro parking updated.
okay. So the site plan is the more,
Yes.
okay,
So
gotcha.
I've looked at the number of spaces, and then the landscape plan will get updated to reflect that site plan, and they'll likely, remove 1 or 2 trees from the pro parking, if I had to guess, just for the feasibility of pulling in the trailers and having the diamond affecting that. But the landscape plan intent should match.
Okay.
So,
And again, this is just a recommendation, is what we're making, just in terms of, the mechanics of it. This will go to the zoning board of adjustments, which is city council, at their next meeting on Tuesday next week. So, again, this is an approval or a denial of the request, but rather a recommendation.
If there's nothing else, I'll create a motion to recommend to approve the parking variance request as presented.
We have a motion. And we need a second.
I'll second.
We have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Brittany's
Good question.
thinking she's.
No, I mean, you guys know your customer. I'm just wondering why those, I guess pro spaces, what you call them, are not like over off to the side, like the side of the parking lot, but I guess there's a
So they can
slope
pull
and
in,
there's a
they can
grade.
pull in and out.
Yeah, but like, why not like right there?
you've got 25 feet
Why
on
not
either
like
side.
have these switched?
Well,
Essentially.
if those are for trailers, and if that's a curb here, so they can't pull in and out. That's so they can like,
Oh, there's a curb here.
yeah, so they can pull the trailer in. and-
Right.
And then they get the full 25 feet on both sides, yeah, okay.
And one other thing to throw out there, Home Depot, well, they told me about 80% of the revenue comes from the pro customer. And so
Oh, wow.
what they try to change with this plan that you don't see in most other stores is the pro parking to where they can, better serve the pro customer and have them pull in, because a lot of times they have a trailer, so, having the pull-through stalls here, versus most other sites, they just have, in the front, 8 spaces or something,
Yeah.
closest to the lumber canopy, allocated to them.
I trust what you guys are doing. I'm just like, I would, I'm not a designer in any way, so I'm not a planner, but I would think like, oh, let's separate it from like the rest of like the head-in parking, but you guys know what you're doing, so I trust that. Hopefully it doesn't affect people that are trying to park, head-on and all that, so I think it's fine. I moved to approve, so we're good.
No, good.
I mean, recommend approval. So.
It looks like a good improvement on the design that over the years you realized, but it's kind of new to us. I think we've learned a lot about Home Depot tonight.
So we've got a 4-0 right there for clarity. We've got all in favor of recommending approval.
I'm sorry, yes. So
Correct.
the motion passes unanimously.
I just had a follow-up question. What is the plan for drainage there? I mean, like you said, there's a 30-foot difference. And that's all pretty much coming straight south into where I believe there's Popeyes and Butch Brothers.
it'll get captured within the parking lot in storm drain, and then there's an existing storm drain, I think it's 24 inch, 48 inch.
48, I don't know.
Within this kind of drive aisle separating
Down
the two. And then I know they're all tying into that as well as Home Depot will be, and then it all comes and it goes up the creek.
Correct, and all of this was planned for when the whole milestone
Okay.
area was developed, when Kroger went in, all of the storm sewer was sized for something like this.
Okay, so all was designed at that point.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's essentially, stubbed out, kind of right behind the Blue Wave area, ready for, future developments, to tie into.
Okay. Very good. Appreciate you answering all our questions and concerns. That's it on the agenda. Now we can move on to commission inquiry. Are there any commission inquiries? I guess I just had one. If we follow, we had an inquiry last meeting, I think it was with Gary, but he's not here. Is there any new developments on College Street on that residential rebuild?
I was trying to understand, I wasn't, he didn't, understand exactly what property it was. If anyone has any,
I guess the point of the inquiry was, it seemed like it was on standstill.
Yeah, it just, I don't know when we approved that, but it's just, what's called its old house?
the big Magnolia house?
No.
The one with the family that came in, the son was gonna redo the
Is this
house.
704 College?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's it.
that sounds right.
704 yeah.
That they had started, they took stuff down, the windows were moved around or busted out and cardboard up. It was dug up and it just sat there. Nothing.
They took the garage down, but we were told.
Paul's old house.
We were,
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
yeah, okay.
Small town.
There you go.
Anyway,
So everything that we looked at said they're going to demolish the whole thing and build.
So what they elected to do, they are building the garage out before they demo the house. Basically, we explained to them, look, you've got approval to do, your full plan to demo of the house, a new house, and a garage. So their plan, as they look at it, they're tackling the garage, and then they're going to demo the house and then build the house.
Yeah, well, they have started, they got some lumber up, so they have started.
Yeah, they had some, they had to take a pause they had some issues with understanding what the foundation inspection, when that needed to happen.
Okay.
So we required them to go and get, basically some, I don't know if it was x-rays or what they did, and, they did some additional boring to ensure that, the pad that was there was not, totally saturated. They dug the beams, essentially like a month before they were ready for concrete. Hopefully they've learned why you don't, leave an open hole.
Right.
So they ended up having to get soil testing and some rebar, kind of x-rays or whatever they had to do to get the building official happy with, that everything, met inspection because they poured without a foundation inspection. So that, kind of put the brakes on them.
Okay, that answers that. Thank you.
And also, the family did mention they're going to look into the possibility of bringing a natural gas line. I know that's a huge thing to undertake.
Right, it's, that's one of those things that it's, I don't know the economics of installing a gas line, if there's not a gas line, there's one on 149, it just likely doesn't run, west into the neighborhood, and,
Right.
The company will likely give, one person a cost to bring a gas line all the way to them, but, that person's gonna eat all of that cost.
It would have to be more of a neighborhood thing, I think, to
Right.
make it worthwhile.
Yeah.
Okay. No, we spent, it was a good plan. Looking forward to it happening.
They seem, they had some, I'm not sure if their primary job is home building or YouTubing, but they have a YouTube.
I think it's YouTube.
It's talking all about, the process, but so.
All right. Anything else?
No, I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
I'll second that.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second.
Pat yourself coming in. aren't you?
Sorry.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And thanks, Brittany, for calling in.
I was
We knew you were
like
coming.
serving dinner